Let's have a look at what the DfE Workload Reduction Taskforce have suggested. This task force comes off the back of the strikes last year. Now, I was talking a lot about the strikes, basically saying that for the vast majority of staff, it's not about pay. Even though the media made it out like it was all about pay, the strikes, for the majority of staff, I felt it was about the workload, it was about the working conditions. So the government have put this task force together. Now, from reading this, I can tell you, whoever's in this task force, clearly a majority of them don't work in a school. Secondly, none of them work in a primary school. But, listen, willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's better than nothing, or is it? Now, the aim of this task force is to meet this pledge of cutting 5 hours from the working week. I don't know how much the government have put into this task force, but you could have doubled that to 10 hours because that's what TeachMate is saving teachers each and every week. I'm not going to go through each and every point because, ironically, I've not got the time, but I'll just cover the key ones that stood out to me. This first one, scrap performance-related pay. Well. Something that was actually introduced by the Tory government under Michael Gove is now being seen as working poorly in practice. Who'd have thought? And the government have said they are going to scrap it. Scrapping something that they themselves implemented. It's one of the few things on the list I actually agree with, because all this did was encourage some schools to set targets that were so unachievable for teachers to get to, so they never moved up the pay scale. Now, this next one I'm not so sure about, having a senior leader with dedicated responsibility for improving wellbeing and reducing workload. Now, the first thing is these two should not be separate things. If you reduce workload, you will improve wellbeing. They go hand in hand, and that's the most important way in which you can improve wellbeing, is to reduce work. They're basically trust teachers, which will reduce workload. But that is not going to work unless there are serious reforms with Ofsted. You are just going to have constant clashes where some SLT are wanting to make changes to tick boxes for Ofsted. These wellbeing people are then going to be going, no, can't do that because it's going to increase workload. So that's going to be, because all these suggestions, by the way, none of them can be implemented unless there's massive reforms with Ofsted and huge investment in education. Simple as. So they said that schools might want to consider using inset time to address workload issues, which is a good idea because most inset days are a waste of time. And also adding another additional inset for that. But the government have gone, no chance, which is your typical response from the government because there's no way they're going to give teachers anything extra, are they? And then the task force have put a revised list of administrative tasks that teachers should not be required to do. And again, none of this is applicable or achievable without heavy investment, because with all of these, and I'll go through some of them again in a minute, but I mean, the question I just have looking at this is, well, if I don't do it as a teacher, who will? I thought all these ideas, it'd be heavily focusing on reforming Ofsted. There'd be a lot more suggestions linked to Ofsted, but there's only a couple. One that says the clarification for schools within the inspection framework, which used to be the MITS document and it was a separate document. They say they need to do that again. But the problem with that is you can have it on paper, but we know full well that there's so many of these inspectors that can't even follow their own guidance, that it's just so inconsistent, it doesn't have an impact. Now, Ofsted, this is where they let themselves down, because they can say one thing, but if they don't then follow it consistently when they're visiting schools, it's never going to change any of this. And other things about the DfE and people sort of celebrating and sharing awareness of the school reduction toolkit, which, you know, most teachers don't give the DfE any time of day because the DfE are absolutely clueless, and anything they do say is so hypocritical anyway that pointless that anyway. And to finish off, these are the list of administrative tasks teachers shouldn't have to do. So again, and I'm just going to bring myself down here, just remember, none of this is going to be achievable without heavy investment in schools. So managing and transferring data, which is great. I'd love not to do that, but if I don't do it, who does? Reformatting data into multiple systems. Yeah, fair dues. Producing photographic evidence of practical lessons. Oh, I've only been saying that for about 10 years. And again, if there was investment in technology, teachers can use tools like Seesaw to help evidence learning, so you're not having to faff about with that. Stuff about that was the only other mention of Ofsted. So creating or copying files perceived, even though, you know, we've been spending the last couple of years since this new inspection framework recreating every policy and everything, intent, implementation, all that rubbish to tick boxes for Ofsted. So, don't do that. But then when you get inspected, you're going to clearly get picked up on that and get downgraded. So yeah, good advice. Responsibility for producing, copying, uploading bulk communication to parents and pupils. Okay, so again, it's just that point of whether if I don't do that, who does? There's not money in the budget to employ anyone else. This is the whole point. This is clearly demonstrating that the constant underfunding of education is one of the main reasons why workload's gone through the roof. Administration relating to school visits, trips and residentials. Again, so if we stop doing that, right, it's all well and good making these suggestions, but if you don't give solutions, if teachers aren't doing it, there's no school trips happening then, is there? Children never go on school trips. Organisation, decoration and assembly of the physical classes, so don't put displays up. Ordering, setting up and maintaining ICT equipment. Again, who's going to do that? Ordering supplies and equipment. I mean, don't get me wrong, when you get the magazine, when you get your TTS magazine, you want to have a little scroll through that. That's actually quite an enjoyable thing. I mean, you can never buy any of it. I mean, that's sorted because no one's got budget to buy anything. Bulk photocopying. How bloody vague is that as the last point, which sort of summarises all these suggestions? It's like, don't get me wrong, I'm more than happy to stop doing these, but it ain't going to solve. I cannot believe that there's not a point there about marking. I cannot believe, because you ask any teacher what's the most pointless thing you do as a teacher, they will say marking over any of this stuff, yet not mentioned. I wish they'd just listen to the profession. Recognise this has been a very lengthy video, so thank you so much if you've stuck with it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think any of this is going to actually be implemented? Do you think any of this is going to work? I mean, what are the solutions going to be? I think none of this matters if there's not heavy investment in education. We've got to clearly bring in so many more people to help doing all these tasks, and the funding's just not there. Plus there needs to be massive reforms of Ofsted. None of this is going to be possible if Ofsted are still expecting things done a certain way, and you've got rogue inspectors that don't follow their own guidance, so it's all pointless anyway. But I welcome your thoughts. What is there anything that was missing? Is there anything you'd add to the list? Just let me know.